south. The early human sites in the Bering Sea have probably been submerged by rising waters and sunk during the current interglacial period. People living in or on the Aleutian Islands developed fine skills in hunting, fishing, and basketry. Hunters made their weapons, watercraft. The baskets found are noted for being finely woven with carefully shredded stalks of beech rye. Russian period. An Aleutian man with a Creole woman in the Aleutian Islands. A Creole winter home in Unalaska. Aleutian Islands. Explorers, traders and missionaries arrived from Russia beginning in 1741. In 1741 the Russian government sent Vitus Bering, a Dane in the vice of Russia, and Alexei Chirikov, a Russian, in the ships St. Peter and St. Paul on a voyage of discovery in the northern Pacific. After the ships were separated by a storm, Chirikov discovered several eastern islands of the Aleutian group and Bering discovered several of the western islands. Bering was shipwrecked and died in the Komandorski Islands, Commander Islands, one of which now bears his name, Bering Island, along with the surrounding Bering Sea. The survivors of Bering's part reached the Kamchatka Peninsula in a boat constructed from the wreckage of their ship, and reported the islands were rich in fur-bearing animals. 10. Siberian fur hunters flocked to the Commander Islands and gradually moved eastward across the Aleutian Islands to the mainland. In this manner, Russia gained a foothold on the northwestern coast of North America. The Aleutian Islands consequently belonged to Russia, until that country transferred all its possessions in North America to the U.S. in 1867. 10. During the consolidation of the Russian-American Company there was sporadic conflict with the native population, frequently disastrous to the poorly armed and vastly outnumbered Russians. The colonies soon entered a relatively stable state based on cooperation, intermarriage, and official policies that provided social status, education, and professional training to children of mixed Aleu-Russian birth. 23. Within a generation, the day-to-day administration of Russian-American colonies was largely in the hands of native-born Alaskans. Reversing the usual trend in colonization where indigenous technologies are replaced, the Russians adopted the Aleu kayak, or bidaka, sea otter hunting techniques, and the working of native copper deposits. The Russians instituted public education, preservation of the Aleu language through transliteration of religious and other texts into Aleu via an adaptation of the Cyrillic alphabet, vaccination of the native population against smallpox, and science-based sea mammal conservation policies that were ahead of their time. 23. By 1760 the Russian merchant Andrian Talstik had made a detailed census in the vicinity of Adak and extended Russian citizenship to the Aleus. During his third and last voyage. In 1778, Captain James Cook surveyed the eastern portion of the Aleutian archipelago, accurately determined the position of some of the more important islands, and corrected many errors of former navigators. 10. Orthodox Christian heritage. Russian Orthodox Church on Unalaska Island. Among the first Christian missionaries to arrive in the Aleutian Islands was a party of 10 Russian Orthodox monks and priests who arrived in 1793. Within 2 years, a monk named Herman was the only survivor of that party. He settled on Spruce Island near Kodiak Island, and often defended the rights of the Aleus against the Russian trading companies. He is now known in the Orthodox Church as Saint Herman of Alaska. Another early Christian missionary of the Russian Orthodox Church was Father Veniaminov, who arrived in Unalaska in 1824. He was named Bishop in Okentii in 1840 and moved to Sitka. He is now known in the Orthodox Church as Saint Innocent of Alaska. The principal settlements were on Unalaska Island. The oldest was Aleution, also called Unalaska, settled in 1760-1775. with a customs house and an Orthodox church. U.S. Possession. Aleutian Islands. JPEG. Western Aleutian Islands. From a 1916 map of the Alaska Territory after the American purchase of Alaska from Russia in 1867, further development took place. New buildings included a Methodist mission and orphanage, and the headquarters for a considerable fleet of United States revenue cutters, which patrolled the sealing grounds of the Pribilof Islands. 10. The first public school in Unalaska opened in 1883. Attu Village, Attu Island. In June 1937, the U.S. Congress extended American citizenship to all Native Americans, and this law has been held to include the indigenous peoples of Alaska. In 1924, a hospital was built in Unalaska in 1933 by the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs. World War II. During World War II, in what were the only two invasions of the United States during the war, small parts of the Aleutian Islands were occupied by Japanese forces, when Attu and Kiska were invaded, possibly to divert American forces away from the main Japanese attack at Midway Atoll. The U.S. Navy, having broken the Japanese naval codes, proceeded as if this was just a diversion. 24, 25, 26, and it did not expend large amounts of effort in defending the islands. More than 90 Americans were taken to Japan as prisoners of war. Most of the civilian population, over 800, of the Aleutians and Pribilovians were detained by the United States in camps in the Alaska Panhandle. During the Aleutian Islands Campaign, American forces invaded Japanese-held Attu and defeated the Japanese. American and Canadian troops later launched an U.S. soldiers of the Southern Landing Force on the beach at Massacre Bay, Attu Island during the Battle of Attu. May 11, 1943. Invasion of Kiska. 34,426 men composed of both Americans and Canadian participated. However, Japanese forces had already withdrawn, ending the campaign in the islands. The invasion was an embarrassment for the Allied forces, as the entire Japanese force of 5,183 men had left the island on the 28th of July without the Americans noticing. However, the Americans suffered significant casualties during their invasion. 313 men died as a result of accidents, with many dying due to accidental fire. President Roosevelt visited Adak in 1944, meeting with commanders and eating with soldiers of the garrison. This was his first and only trip to the Aleutian Islands and Alaska as a whole. A rumor spread that FDR had accidentally left his Scottish Terrier Fowler on one of the islands and had to send a destroyer to retrieve the dog, costing taxpayers several $1 million. The president made fun of these rumors during a talk with the Teamsters Union in Washington, D.C., now known as the Fowler speech. At this speech, the president joked with the crowd, saying, "Well, of course, I don't resent attacks, and my family doesn't resent attacks, but Fowler does resent him." 27. June 3, 2002 was celebrated as Dutch Harbor Remembrance Day. The governor of Alaska ordered state flags lowered to half-staff to honor the 43 Americans who died during the two-day Japanese air attack in 1942. The Aleutian World War II National Historic Area Visitors Center opened that month. Recent developments. The Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act became law in 1971. In 1977, the Unalaska Corporation, from Unalaska, declared a dividend. This was the first village corporation to declare and pay a dividend to its shareholders. The Aleutian Islands were designated a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in 1976. The Aleutians were one of 17 biosphere reserves in the United States withdrawn by request of the U.S. government from the program in June 2017. 28, 29. Nuclear testing. The US conducted underground tests of nuclear weapons on Amshika Island from 1965 to 1971 as part of the Vela Uniform program. The final detonation, the Kanakin, was the largest underground nuclear explosion by the U.S. Russian Aleutions. Russian Aleutions is organized as Aleuski district in Kamchatka Krai. It comprises Commander Islands, Bering Island, Medny Island, Sea Lion Rock, Sea Otter Rocks, Tufted Puffin Rock, Cayman Toporkov or Ostrov Toporkov, Cayman Ari. See also 1946 Aleutian Islands earthquake, 2014 Aleutian Islands earthquake, Aleutian Islands campaign, Aleutians East Borough, Alaska, Aleutians West Census Area, Alaska. List of Aleutian Island volcanoes. List of Aleutian Islands. List of birds of Aleutian Islands. List of extreme points of the United States. Lists of islands. Maritime fur trade. Military history of the Aleutian Islands. Peter the Aleu. References.
Good. So I like to go there in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Let's read another one.